Introduce yourself.
Jimmy Lavender.
Jimmy, you're an established author now. How does it feel?
It feels great. You know what, the feeling really hit me after I sold my first book, and my first sale happened to be my favorite cousin, and she did that on Facebook. So that's when it really hit me. I'm an author now.
For the dime moves and the lokes, for the 6-4s on spokes, for the OGs that did a dime, came back around on parole, for the homegirls with the scrap game, little homies that gang bang, from Pelican Bay to YA, rearrange your mind frame. Yeah, I know what you've been through, shit you had to go tend to. Your mama gave birth on the turf, I know them killers you kin to. This for the lost generation, broke as hell, man.
Lifting weights and I was on swole, they start calling me Big Miz.
Original stutter box. Eastside Fighters, Pablo Bishop, Mill City Gangsta Bloods.
Yeah, man, video, you know, this is for sure. Yeah, man, video, open your soul.
This is the beginning.
Okay, as you see, the book is Bitter Rain in a Better Tomorrow. The book cover is a picture of me actually when I was in the 4th grade at Drew Junior, when I was 14 in the 9th grade at Drew Junior High School.
How are the book sales going?
They're going pretty good. They're going pretty good. Better than what I would have expected at this time.
What are your reviews looking like?
Perfect. I'm getting out of 5. I'm getting 5s, and I think 1 4.5 across the board.
That's good, man. That's good.
It's real good.
Well, let's dive into the book, man. Tell me about what made you want to write a book and how you got it started.
I've been wanting to write a book for a long time, but I really want to leave something behind. I want to leave my story behind. I heard so much and read so much in the past that I want what I think truth to be told.
You got pictures in here of your grandmother and grandfather, or your mother and your grandfather?
I do. I have pictures of my great-great-grandfather who fought in the Civil War. I have pictures of my great-grandfather who was a bootlegger. I have my grandfather, my mother's father, my mother, and my grandfather's daughter. And my great-great-grandfather, Alfred Prim, lived to be 127 years old.
Okay, now let's start with chapter 1. Chapter 1, you talk about your family's early roots. We talked about it a little bit before in some of our interviews. Tell us about your family and the migration to California.
My father first went to Detroit, Michigan, wanting to leave the racism and the prejudice of the South. He went to Detroit, and when wintertime came, my father decided that's just too cold for him. So then he come to California, and behind him would be his brothers and first cousins and so on, and so my family came here to Los Angeles.
Chapter 2, you talk about November 1963, where your parents found a place for you guys to live in Watts. What was Watts like back then, and how old were you?
I was 8 years old. We were moving to Watts on November, the exact day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It was a hard day. It was a hard day because the only friends I ever had was in the Pueblo projects. It was the first friends I had, and I was being taken away from them, and seeing all the crying from the teachers and my parents, and but it was all about not me. It was all about the President John F. Kennedy being assassinated. Moving to Watts was it was totally different. It was so different than being in the projects, where everybody in the projects was like one family, but the homes in the Florence Firestone and Watts area was separate. So it was different, and even the little street gangs around that area was different. The Pueblos had a gang, but they were the Pueblos. It was just one big gang inside the projects, and the few houses outside the Pueblos, that was the Pueblos. But when we came down to The Watts area, we had the Twins and 3 or 4 different things. We had, and they were more like terrorizing the community, as to where the Pepelos did not terrorize the community. So that was something we had to adapt to.
You mentioned that you weren't afraid to walk around the neighborhood. People outside of Watts think Watts is a bad area. They think the Pueblo Projects is a bad area. Why weren't you afraid?
Well, Cal, Matt, let me tell you. Put about 6 rocks in my pocket, and right outside the Pepelos was a wood factory. So we would always get sticks or go down to the gas station and get the old airlines. We called in whips. So I grabbed something like that and I walk where I gotta walk, because my mission is to find some apricot trees. I'm going to raise some apricot trees, and I don't have no bag, I got pockets. So I just never been afraid of dogs or people. I'm just not afraid.
Chapter 3, you talk about sports. When did you first get into sports, and what was your favorite sport?
We played ball in the projects, and I always played with the bigger kids, but I didn't get involved in organized sports until about 63 or 69 at Roosevelt Park. And baseball, stickball, that was my favorite sport by 4.
For us young ones, tell us what stickball is.
Stickball is baseball. Stickball is baseball. Back in Alabama, when we wanted to play in a little place called Aliceville, a little small town, it's a woody place, so we didn't have a bat. We couldn't afford nothing like that. We go out and pick cucumbers or watermelons in the field all day long, and my father and my uncle would take all that to the city of Tuscaloosa and sell it. Now, we didn't work from sun up to sundown. They'd bring us back a little rubber ball, and that was cool. We go out in the woods and break a couple of pieces of sticks off the trees in the wood, and we come back and play baseball. That's not where the name stickball came from, but I guess it could be.
Now you talk about getting ready for competition at Drew Junior High School. Ricky Bell.
Ricky. Rest in peace, Ricky. This is Roosevelt Park. Roosevelt Park. We went like 3 years in flag football, undefeated to the Pepsi Cola Tournament of Champions. Every year we would win. Little story about Ricky Bell. He was dominant. I mean, he's a lineman on that particular team there. Later on, he, of course, would be a fullback, and then he would go ahead and play college and then on into the pros. But anyway, it was taking Ricky a long time to kick the ball. And one thing you learn, Cal, never turn around on a line. Never turn around. It's taking Ricky a while to kick the ball. I turned around and he kicked the ball right in my face. Boom. So, but anyway, that was my childhood friend from the 63 team, Ricky Bell. And getting us ready for Drew. We got together at Drew, and I took the plays that we had from our Roosevelt team, and about 5 of us came from different teams. My personal friends, Clyde Clay, Tookie, Earl Palmer, Spaceghost, David Walker. David Walker and Dino was already on the Rams, and then we all came together as one super team, and I took the plays from Roosevelt Park and to our team, and we went undefeated.
What can you tell me about the Wizard, Ozzie Smith?
Well, we used to play basketball in his driveway after school. Osborne was hard. He was hard. He'd go 100%. He was, there's a difference between fast and swift and quick. He was quick. I mean, he would nail an outside shot in basketball all day long. If you come up on him, he'd go right around you. Football, he had that speed. He quarterbacked the whole 9 yards. And in my books, I talk about the game against Fauché Junior High School, how Coach Johnson allowed him to start quarterbacking over me, which pissed me off because my team just went undefeated. How he gonna start over me? So, but it is what it is. Osborne is one of those guys. As a matter of fact, he was our class president at Drew. He was our class president. always in talent shows. He tried to sing and dance a little bit. A lot of talent, very smart guy. In basketball, football, baseball, doesn't matter. I was going to be one of the standout players, if not the standout player on the field for sure.
Do you remember when he strictly became a baseball player or not?
Well, he did all of his childhood playing at Manchester Park. He didn't play for Roosevelt Park or Will Rogers. He played for Manchester Park. I can't say he didn't play for Will Rogers, but he came up in Manchester Park. That was his park. Baseball was always his thing. He played basketball at Locke High School, but his whole thing was baseball. It was baseball.
So how did you and your friends in the neighborhood or your family feel about him when he was doing his thing in Major League Baseball?
I think the only one who really had a feel about it was me. I was really cool with his brother Fred. He was a manager at Kentucky Fried Chicken. He gave me my first job. Didn't fire me because I was messing up. People were ordering dark meat, and instead of giving them a thigh, I give them a breast. I didn't know the difference. But when he signed with the San Diego Padres, he sent some tickets for me and Big Baby George and his brother Fred, and we went to his very first pro game with the San Diego Padres. Stayed in his room until he came up. I'm proud of him. Look, I was a ball player in trouble with my little personal habits, and Osborne asked me for my schedule so he can give it to their scout. Bob Forte was his name. He was the Major League Pro Scout for the San Diego Padres, and Oz felt that I was that good and that he wanted the scout to follow me around. But, of course, my life as a bishop and getting high off drugs was more important to me, and I couldn't leave Bishop in the middle of a war. I couldn't go to Japan to play ball. I couldn't go to Mexico to play ball. The opportunities was there, and I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't leave my brother in the middle of a war.
Can you explain to me the impact that gangs have on young youth that is so strong that you prefer to be in the hood than have a professional sports career?
With me, again, it was sometimes it can. Who are you in that game? If I'd have been just a member that nobody, my brother was a member with nobody, or just a regular member, then that might have been different. But we had names and we had targets on our backs. So, again, I couldn't abandon Bishop. I couldn't abandon my brother. I was offered to go back to Alabama to live with my family, to get away from everything. And most guys in our neighborhood didn't have nowhere to go. They grew up in California. We had escaped, but again, they trying to kill my brother. They trying to kill all my close friends. And I just felt like I had to stay there and be with them to protect them.
You talk about you had a name at that time. In your book, you mentioned the Lavenders had a name at that time. How did that name come to be?
That name actually came by my brother Willie, my older brother. Willie was different than Bobby and myself. If you see me and Bobby walking down the street, you didn't have to cross the street. That bothered us if you cross. Because first of all, we don't like cowards. And we're not going to bother you. Bobby and myself, not going to bother you. But if it was Willie and his crew, then by all means, cross the street, hit the corner and run. And so Willie built that name up, the Lavenders. It wasn't built up by me and Bobby. We inherited it. And when we got to like junior high school, then it more like became their Lavenders. And then my sister Brenda, she was kind of hard too. So it's a different name, Lavender. And we had cousins in the area. Last name Lavender, went to Bret Hart. So once you hear that name, we was all related. So it's a pretty nice sized family.
Between me, you, and everybody watching this interview, a couple guys from the Slausons told me that Minnie also had a big name in the family. Tell me about Minnie.
Well, you got me on that one, Cal. I like that. Minnie didn't live off of our name, or did she? She got that name Lavender, and Minnie goes where she want to go. She's good friends with Berta Slauson's family. Who don't Minnie know in the city? I mean, who don't she know? I got to give that to her. She wasn't a lady bishop, so she didn't come up game banging. She was not she was an athlete, real popular type person, left it Drew. And of course, her being our sister helped 90-some% of the time. And then sometimes at Jordan High School, they made threats of her because she was our sister. Of course, we had to go up there and, stop that. But Minnie, she likes to skate. She likes to dance. And she knows everybody. She don't care where you're from, what you call yourself. She got friends everywhere. So, yeah, she is really popular.
35 years ago today, Ozzie Smith was traded for Gary Templeton. What did you think about that trade?
I hated it. Because, Osborne, I mean, of course, they still call him Ozzie Smith. But, he's from Birmingham, Alabama originally. But his name is Osborne Smith is what we know him by. I hated the trade.
Do you think it was a fair trade, even?
Well, yeah, we baseball players, and defense take away runs. Although Gary Templeton is a good defensive ball player, he couldn't get to the plays that Osborne could do and make the plays that Osborne would make. So he's a better hitter than Osborne, but he takes away runs too. So I think it was a fair trade. I actually think the Cardinals got the best deal.
Here it is, Cute's getting into it with the West Side Bishops. His cousin, his blood cousin, is Spaceghost from your area. And you seem to have a lot of respect for Spaceghost. And what made you put a picture of Spaceghost in your book?
That picture of Spaceghost is the same 69 year that was taken off of our panorama picture. So his age was the same age of my cover photo there. Had the West Side Bishops called us because they were having problems with those Crips in that neighborhood, we would have come. And just to show you how sick gangs really are, we older than those West Side Bishops. They were 14, a few 15-year-olds. We're 16, 17, 18, and 19. And we rugged. And so if we'd have come on the West Side, it would have been ugly. And it would have been so easily if it had been gunplay, it would have been so easy for even Ghost to have shot and killed his own cousin, not recognizing me. You see how sick that can be? And we would have hated that. But see, I didn't know Cutes now, and I didn't know anything about the West Side Crips. But if they'd have called us, then we would have come.
Your partner, Skip. Tell me about how his incident, the death, came to be.
My buddy had just come home from doing time in Vietnam, and there was a party and good times, everybody drunk. You're having a good time when everybody drunk in the house. And I remember Skip laughing. Skip was a dancer. Skip don't miss no dance on the hop, cha-cha, slow dance. Unlike me, I can't dance. I got two left feet. I'm not on the floor at all. I'm at the punch bowl and eating the crackers and tuna, that type of thing. But I remember Skip collecting the money for the last call for alcohol, which means the liquor store is about to close. And I passed him up on 87th and Bandera, and he was standing on the corner waiting for a couple guys to come out the house who was trying to get some girls to come on down to the party and end the night. And I passed by Skip, and I said, hey, man, I remember we going to church with Mama tomorrow. He said, I'll be there. I get a half a block, and I hear a pop. Now, he's killed in June, just about June 7th, I think it was. A week later, he's going to graduate from high school. And my girlfriend, Linda Williams, was with me, and I stopped, and she said, "Come on, Jim, that was a firecracker." We close to the fourth. And I said, "Nah, see, I'm a gunman. I knew the difference between the sounds." I said, "That was a gunshot." And it came from in the direction where Skip was. I took off running back. He running with me, and 87th and Bandera was a vacant lot at that time. And I got to the corner. I saw Skip running wide-legged. Kel, you remember my run? I saw Skip running wide-legged, and I ran over there. He collapsed about 10 feet in front of me, maybe, in the field on his face. And I held him and like so, and I could see the little blood coming out of his throat. He had been shot in the Adam's apple by a .22. And they had asked him, we went to court. Well, I don't want to talk about that because it's in the book, but it'll tell you what happened, what led to the shooting and stuff like that. But it was another senseless killing. You know, Skip was, there's other ball players in my neighborhood might disagree with me, but, you know, that's okay. I think Skip was the single most dominant ball player in the whole neighborhood. He could turn the game around. He had leaps, could shoot from outside, take it to the hoop. And at that time, if you 5'9", wasn't nobody dunking no ball. Skip could. He'd get a rebound and throw it right back down. I mean, he was something else. And Coach Brown at Jordan High School begged Skip to come play with his varsity team, but Skip's dream was to break out in the car. He wanted his own car for graduation. And so he turned down the playing basketball, and Bobby was a manager at McDonald's in Huntington Park. So he pulled Skip in, got him a job there, and Skip got his car, and we went back there and see it. He kept his cover up. He didn't want nobody to see it till graduation day. He was going to break out. Unfortunately, he never got a chance to break out in his car.
In chapter 4, after the funeral, you go home and turn on James Brown, the big payback.
Yes.
First, tell me what you thought of James Brown at the time. What was going on with him?
I personally, like everybody else, we played James Brown records, but I wasn't no James Brown fan. Popcorn, make you want a popcorn, you know, all that. I like a song with a meaning to it, and James Brown just wasn't my type of entertainer. But
the song you put on,
the big payback.
Why that song?
Because it was time for payback. We still didn't know who had killed Skip, but we had come up with a name, and we had formed Bishop. And I wanted payback. You just killed my best friend. Skip don't mess with nobody.
Your brother Bobby wanted to start a new gang. In your book, you mentioned the Bishops. Am I right? Is he the one who came up with the name Bishops?
I'm not. There are some that would say Bobby did. There are some that's going to say BB did, okay, who came up with that name. But in truth, I can tell you that there was 13 of us in the garage and about another 60 people right after the funeral service, and we was coming up with something. And we were kicking. I mean, believe it or not, I didn't know any Brims, but I wanted to be Eastside Brims. Bobby said, "Nah." So they all shot that down, and whatever name that we threw up, it was somebody had a note to it, and somebody said Bishop.
You know, after my interview with you one time, I got a phone call, and somebody mentioned that there was actually a Brim that lived in your hood, and I don't know if you're aware of him or not.
You know, Aliso Village one time had some Brims over there, and there was a guy named Blackman on 87th and Beach, and he was from the Brims.
That's him.
That's Blackman? Yeah, okay. I know Blackman.
Okay, good shit. So the reason why I asked about all this is, just to be clear, what year was this when y'all came up with the Bishops?
It was June 1972.
Okay. After Skip's death, what's the relations like between the Bishops and the Eastside Crips?
You know, that's a good question, because a lot of the original East Side Crips was Skip's friend too. Yeah. It was not the Crips in that area that killed Skip. Had the likes of Raymond Washington would have been there that day in that car, Skip don't get killed. We all have friendships. And so when Skip got killed, we didn't know it was the Crips. It could have been the bounty hunters, and Pyrus didn't come that far over. Brams didn't come that far over. The Crips was definitely the number one suspects, but we had no proof.
What was your friendship or relation to Big Alden?
That's my little brother. I love that dude. I have to give him credit for teaching me how to fish. Alden is a few years younger than I am, and his parents would always make hot dogs and punches after the baseball game. And we may have played 3 hours ago, but when you're a kid, you're going to hang around in the park, especially we're going to have some hot dogs and punch coming. So we go run around the park, and when Alden's team was ready to play, we come there just to watch Alden crush a baseball. If you've ever been to Roosevelt Park, there's only a couple of us that can hit the ball to clear those trees in left field and center field. I was one of them, and Alden was another one.
You briefly mentioned Big James Miller.
Yeah.
What did you guys call him?
Jimmy. That's Jimmy Miller.
That's Jimmy.
That's Jimmy.
And you kind of know him from Watts. Yeah,
we went to the same elementary school. We went to 92nd Street School. He lived about 6 or 7 blocks over on Caramai at 95th.
When I met you, man, that's the first time I had heard that he had roots in Watts. And to this day, I talk to people and they have no idea about that.
Yeah, well, that's where Jimmy's from, in 92nd Street School. I was an athlete. I'm an athlete. I'm hard to beat. I'm a competitor. And Jimmy Miller was one of the toughest tetherball players that I had ever faced. He's tall and he's strong, and he's a hard man to beat, but he got beat.
Your buddy that you introduced me to did an interview about James Miller.
Purvis Patterson.
Purvis Patterson. It's my understanding that he passed since then.
Yeah, Purvis is gone. I really wanted Purvis to do that interview, and he enjoyed it so much. I mean, it just, that just made Purvis right there, and it couldn't have been for a better person. And Purvis only lived a few doors down from Jimmy Miller, so I knew that he can give you better stories than I could on Jimmy. I only know so much about Jimmy, but Purvis knows a whole lot more.
Yeah, I got a kick out of your book when you talk about Tookie being the founder of the Crips, and Triple OGs on Kill Mac videos never mentioned him as the founder.
Right.
Why do you think people, I have my opinion, but why do you think people associate Tookie with being the founder of the Crips?
I think it all goes trickle down to hearsay, what they didn't heard from somebody else. I personally know that was Raymond's thing, and I never heard of Tookie till a few years later, so I knew better, and I used to try to tell people, no, that's Raymond. Raymond was the founder, and of course I have to get in arguments with people. People even told me that Raymond started the west side and Tookie started the east side. There's all kind of stuff out there, but I don't know. It's just people pass stuff down and false information.
What part do you think the media played in all that? Because if you remember, Tookie gets convicted for a murder that sends him to death row. So that's big news. Goes to death row is big news. The execution, the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. Tookie writing those books. Do you think the media kind of made him into the founder of the Crips because he was facing the death penalty?
Yeah, I heard interviews and different different programs where, and I even heard Tookie call himself the founder of the Crips. So a lot of people go by that.
Sitting reminiscing upon